Welcome back to Roto Moto. My name is Donnie, and in this video, I will cover 5 riders I want you to look at when making your PulpMX fantasy picks for High Point, tips for picking FFL, the weather report, race day schedule, and an early look at what my team could be come Saturday. But first, let's take a moment to recap what went down at Thunder Valley 2 weeks ago. We lost over 2,000 players in the second week of the season. Definitely not what the guys at Pulp want to see, but it looks like most of those that sat out in the second round were free players, meaning the ones that pay to take it seriously are mostly still here. The perfect team clocked in at just under 600, led by the perfect score of Dylan Schwartz, our Pirelli, top scorer of the race and managing to stay out of the bear trap of past champions. The most popular team failed to do so with the massive pick trend for a ton of factory guys that clocked DNFs and generally just failed to perform. At least the FFL was easy this week. Justin Cooper took both of them after a red flag restart robbed Jeremy Martin, making 3 out of 4 for Justin, and Ken Roxon had a perfect day, qualifying first, nabbing both FFLs, and going on to win both motos for his second and third FFL on the season. This is the kind of consistency that fantasy players want to see, and with 2 chances to do it, this could lead to a ton of easy points out there this season. The median championship league score was 363, meaning if you scored 364 or more, you did better than half of the paying field. All-stars picked per team dropped below 2.5, likely due to the loss of those 2,000 casuals mentioned earlier, and probably also due to the amount of all-star worthy rides that were just outside of the top 8. The amount of riders that crossed the double point threshold in both motos almost doubled this week, from the unreasonably low 19 last week to 34 this week, but those that missed double did not go unnoticed. 60% of players had Eli Tomac and 1 out of 4 had Zach Osborne, both returning less than 20 on the day, which was a huge hit to the field. I didn't have the greatest weekend ever, but am happy to escape above the median. I stuck to my guns with Craig and Alves, and if you took my advice, you enjoyed their 76 point scores as well. Pierce was a bit disappointing, but 40 was just below double-double. The big losers were Eli Tomac and Ben LeMay, but on the plus side for me, they were the 2 highest pick trends in the class, which meant that I didn't lose out too much in comparison to the rest of the field. The Roto Moto League saw Boyd_Hayden bring home 520 points on the weekend, good for 17th overall, and that also put him on top of the season league lead with 952. He nailed both FFLs, and the only disappointing score for him on the weekend was Ben LeMay's 30. 2 weeks in, and we were already missing 6 big names for a long period of time. Both Jeremy Martin and Alex Martin have again been sidelined on the same weekend of the season. This reduces your number of all-star options to 7 in the 250 class. Pro Circuit is still down 3 riders, with Hammaker, McAdoo, and Jordan Smith all recovering from injury, and Joey Crown will miss at least 1 more round, recovering from his Supercross season injury and preparing for outdoors. On the 450 side, defending champion Zach Osborne has announced he will miss the entire season with that back injury that sidelined him for most of Supercross, joining teammate Jason Anderson on the sides, and leaving Dean Wilson as the only one out there representing Rockstar Husqvarna in the 450 class. Jeremy Smith and Phil Nicoletti had a gnarly crash at the start in Colorado, and it looks like Phil will line up, but unfortunately Jeremy will not. Be sure to confirm that a rider is on the cheat sheets before putting them on your team, and for an even easier time, you can check a little box when selecting your team that says only show riders in AMA qualifying results to only show guys that have put down a lap time. It will still show guys that did not make the top 40, and it will also show guys that could have crashed out, but it is better than nothing. All right, on to your 2021 High Point National picks. We'll get into the weather a bit later in the video, but I just wanted to say really quick, I'm giving these picks under the impression that the track will at least be raceable come Saturday and not an absolute mess. I advise you to pick a nice, safe, early team, knowing that there's a significant chance for rain in the forecast and things can change very quickly if that happens. Just make sure to lock in a Friday team full of veterans, guys that like it wet, and have a truck full of parts if things go sour. I have 3 guys to target, 1 to avoid, and a high handicap guy to look at for you gamblers out there, starting with the little class and working our way up. The first spot on your roster we're going to address is your 250 All-Star, and this is one that I want you to avoid. Let's talk again about Hunter Lawrence. I don't mean to pick on the guy, but he just isn't giving the results needed to have such a low handicap. Justin Cooper and brother Jet Lawrence are the only 2 lower than Hunter's 3 handicap, meaning he needs 4th or better in each moto to score 50 points. This is something he's done only once this season. You might be sitting there remembering that in 2019, Hunter Lawrence won the first moto right here at High Point. But did you know that was the last time that Hunter was on the podium? That's right, he has gone 23 consecutive motos without a podium appearance, and at a 3, that is just not enough consistency for my All-Star. A guy that I do want you to look at, again, is Michael Mosiman. He's a 0 handicap and would be an all-star if not for a mechanical issue in Colorado. He opened the season with a 4.4 score. In his last 26 motos, he has managed to finish in the top 10 in over 70% of them. He has the pace and equipment to put it on the box, and with that, you would be looking at 80 points for your team. Your 450 All-Star slot should be an easy fill if you are able to pick Aaron Plessinger. It's no secret that AP is an East Coast guy and no one likes it sloppy like he does, but even on a dry day, AP has proven that he is a real deal contender this season, finishing top 5 in every single moto this year, a 100% success rate against his current handicap, which is something that he is the only one that has been able to do so far this season. He's getting good starts and staying out of trouble, and that's exactly what you want out of an All-Star, especially if it's gonna get gross. A non-all-star pick for the weekend in the 450 class is Fast Freddie Noren. The KTM Privateer is another guy that can stick it if it gets sloppy, but even dry, he's proven over his career to be a top 15 threat. In fact, he has scored in the top 14 in over 3/4 of his last 18 moto starts, and 2 top 14s here would have you sitting pretty with over 60 points on the weekend. The Pirelli Tire high handicap hero of the round, given to a rider with a handicap of 10 or more that I think has a realistic chance to score massive points this weekend if you're the type of person that likes to sweat out 2 30-minute motos for a potential big payout. For high point, I want you to take a look at none other than Filthy Phil Nicoletti, a certified beast from the East himself. Filthy has never had a season start this way before and will no doubt be looking for major redemption. Coming into the season, he has only failed to crack the top 20 in a single moto of his previous 41. So these two this season should be written off as an anomaly. There are concerns that he could be coming in under 100% after his crash at Thunder Valley, but ultimately a 13 handicap, I'm willing to take that risk knowing he has real 100-point potential. The 250 FFL can really only go one way here, and it's Justin Cooper. With Jeremy Martin out, there's no real clear-cut contender, and with 2 chances to do it, I'm looking at Justin, and that is the only way that I'm looking. The 450 FFL, on the other hand, I'm conflicted. Ken Roczen has a perfect weekend and now has 3 of 4 on the season, but there's just something about Kenny's consistency or lack thereof that scares me here. I'm likely to pick him because the data doesn't lie, but I'm just also interested in AC and think he'll end up with the most by the end of the season. All right, let's look at that weather I mentioned before. It's a significant chance for rain starting Friday evening all the way until the end of the second moto. It will honestly be a minor miracle if it manages to stay dry at the track, but just because rain is in the forecast doesn't mean it's going to be a bike-eating mud hole. Just make sure to keep this in mind when making your early picks, and know that the qualifying results will be very skewed, and the first guys out on the track, especially that 250B group, will have a fresher track and will qualify much better than they should. Your race day schedule is a typical East Coast fare. Those on the East should tune into the Peacock app at 10 a.m. for qualifying, which is a very early 7 a.m. on the West Coast. I will have the qualifying cheat sheets ready for Patreon supporters as soon as the final 450 session wraps up. The rest of you will find it on Twitter and Instagram after the consolation races to fill in the final 4 spots wrap up, about 45 minutes before the first moto gates drop. Before I show you my early team for High Point, I just want to take a moment to talk about the channel's very first sponsor. I'm excited to announce that we are partnered with Pirelli Tire. Pirelli remains dedicated to the grassroots part of the sport with their "We sell what we race and we race what we sell" motto, providing you access to the very same Scorpion MX tires used by their professional racing teams, including world champions such as Tim Geiser, Jeffrey Hurlings, the Club MX Yamaha team, Barek Suzuki, and Chaparral Honda. This approach has allowed Pirelli to place its research and development focus on motocross, benefiting the everyday rider when they take their local racetrack. My Thursday team looks like this. I have RJ Hampshire on my all-star slot with a 6 handicap, hoping he can stay out of trouble to bring home an easy 50. I have Michael Mosiman looking for a podium with a 0. Dylan Schwartz, who looked very, very impressive on that Barek Suzuki, even at altitude last week, and Ty Masterpool at a 10 with the most upside in the field. 450 squad, I have Aaron Plessinger for all the reasons we spoke about before. Max Anstey, a guy that I know is hoping it gets real nasty to take advantage of that 4 handicap. Freddie Noren as an 8 for the reasons before. And Filthy Phil Nicoletti looking for that East Coast bump. Justin Cooper and Adam Cianciarulo penciled in for my FFLs, but if it gets sloppy, I'm likely to drop at least Adam, if not both. Don't forget to follow at RotoMoto on Twitter and Instagram for qualifying insights, injury reports, stats, and banter as the race goes on, and of course those ever-important fantasy cheat sheets. And if you want even more help making your picks, be sure to check out and subscribe to Roto Moto on Patreon for access to the enhanced cheat sheets chock full of more data than you can imagine to help you make those huge point picks. I want to give a shout out to the current Patreon supporters. This channel is made possible by good people like Greg F., Jesse M., and John D. Thanks as always for watching Roto Moto. My name is Donnie, and I will see you on race day.